What's the worst possible place to drive your taxi? How about directly behind a Boeing 737 that's revving up for takeoff at 140 miles per hour? We've got a taxi driver in Brazil who thought runway rules were just suggestions and airport signs were basically invisible. When hurricane-force jet engines meet a small car, physics always wins. Welcome back to Wow Amazing, where we celebrate humanity's most spectacular failures to think things through. Before we count down today's collection of stunning decision-making, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Today's episode is packed with tales that range from armed robbery gone wrong to vacation disasters that defy all logic. So buckle up, because we're about to explore stories that prove Darwin's theory is alive and working overtime. Number 10, the gun seller's surprise. Let's start our countdown with a story that proves some business transactions come with unexpected risks. It's February 2002 in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we meet three men with what they thought was a foolproof robbery plan. They spotted a newspaper ad from someone selling a gun, and their criminal minds immediately saw opportunity. Most people would think, if this guy is selling a gun, he probably knows how to use one. But our Darwin Award nominees had a different perspective on customer service. Their plan was beautifully simple: arrange a meeting, beat up the seller, spray him with mace, and walk away with a free weapon. What could possibly go wrong when you attack someone who advertises that he owns firearms? The three men set up their fake buyer meeting and showed up ready to turn a gun sale into a gun theft. They jumped their victim, started beating him, and pulled out the mace, probably feeling quite clever about their strong-arm tactics. But people who sell guns, they usually own more than just the one they're selling. Their target turned out to be prepared for exactly this situation. Before the robbers could complete their brilliant plan, the gun seller demonstrated why attacking armed people is generally considered poor strategy. 18-year-old Carlos learned this lesson the hard way when he intercepted a bullet and died before rescue crews arrived. His two partners probably spent the rest of the evening reconsidering their business model. Sometimes the best security system is customer education, and this seller provided a very thorough lesson in personal protection. Number 9, runway taxi service. Our next tale takes us to Santos Dumont Airport in Rio de Janeiro, where one taxi driver learned that airports have rules for very good reasons. Meet our 64-year-old cab driver, whose understanding of airport traffic patterns was about to meet reality in spectacular fashion. Taxi drivers at airports hear the same announcements every day. The white zone is for loading and unloading passengers only, but apparently nobody ever told them that runways are exclusively for airplanes. Our Darwin Award nominee had just dropped off a fare and was heading back to the taxi area when he made a crucial navigation error. Instead of following the clearly marked taxi routes, he decided the runway looked like a convenient shortcut. The director of the local taxi cooperative later explained that the warning signs were practically invisible, which might explain the confusion. What was definitely not invisible was the massive Boeing 737 sitting right there on the runway, engines spinning up for takeoff. But our taxi driver was apparently too busy to notice minor details like commercial aircraft preparing for departure. He sped onto the runway just as the pilot was pushing the throttles forward for a 140-mile-per-hour takeoff roll. The taxi got caught in the jet wash and experienced what you might call an unscheduled flight. The car was spun 25 meters through the air, hit the rocks at Guanabara Bay, and ejected its driver like a human cannonball. His tip for the ride was a broken skull and thorax, leaving him in a coma. Sometimes the shortest route between 2 points involves becoming airborne, but taxis aren't designed for that kind of service. Number 8, the booby trap master. From aviation disasters to home security gone wrong, we visit Belgium, where one man's revenge plan became his own demise. November 2002 brought us a 79-year-old retired engineer whose brilliant mind was matched only by his terrible judgment. This genius had spent 4 years planning the perfect revenge against his estranged family, who had cost him his home in a lengthy legal battle. His solution was worthy of a criminal mastermind. Booby trapped the entire house with enough deadly devices to eliminate anyone who entered. For 4 years, he had been installing hidden death traps throughout his property, turning his home into a lethal obstacle course. Police initially thought he had committed when they found him alone with a bullet wound in his neck. Then a detective nearly became victim number 2 when he opened a booby-trapped wooden chest and missed a bullet by inches. That's when authorities realized they were dealing with something much more dangerous than a simple suicide. Military experts were called in to decipher the fiendish puzzle this engineer had created. They found 20 cryptic clues scattered around the house, each one leading to a different death trap. The clues were brilliantly designed, but showed his failing memory. Notes like "cheaper by the dozen" led to booby-trapped dinner plates. Expert bomb disposal teams spent 3 weeks locating 19 different death traps hidden in walls, ceilings, and household objects. There were concealed shotguns triggered by threads, an exploding crate of beer that would detonate when bottles were removed, and devices that would make professional assassins jealous. They cracked 19 of his 20 clues, but had to admit defeat on the final note. The 12 apostles are ready to work on the pebbles. Experts called his work fiendishly clever, which makes his death even more ironic. This brilliant engineer who spent years creating the perfect killing machine forgot one crucial detail. He had to live in the house too. Number 7, train-hopping graduate. From elaborate revenge schemes to simple recreational activities, we visit Kentucky where childhood games meet adult consequences. March 2002 brought us a young man whose nostalgia for simpler times led to permanent complications. Our Darwin Award winner had grown up doing what many kids in railroad towns do, hopping moving trains for short, thrilling rides. As a child, he had mastered the art of jumping onto slow-moving freight cars, riding them for 15 or 20 yards, then leaping safely back to the ground. It was the kind of dangerous childhood fun that builds character and teaches timing, assuming you survive long enough to learn the lessons. But by age 20, he had apparently lost touch with the skills that had kept him alive during his train-hopping youth. On this particular day, he was showing off for friends, demonstrating his old expertise with moving trains. His audience probably expected to see the same smooth technique he had displayed as a teenager. What they got instead was a physics lesson about why some childhood activities shouldn't be attempted by adults. Our hero confidently approached a southbound train, timing his jump exactly like he had done hundreds of times before. But this time, he made a crucial observation error that cost him everything. While focusing on the southbound train he planned to hop, he completely failed to notice the simultaneous approach of a northbound train on the adjacent track. His successful jump onto the southbound train put him directly in the path of the oncoming northbound locomotive. Sometimes childhood skills don't translate to adult situations, especially when you forget to check both directions before crossing railroad tracks. Number 6, the Blowhole Daredevil. Our next story takes us to the beautiful beaches of Hawaii, where natural wonders and human foolishness created a deadly combination. June 2002, 18-year-old Daniel, whose vacation was about to become much more memorable than he planned. Daniel was enjoying a family trip to Hawaii when he encountered 3 young women on the beach, which may have affected his decision-making abilities. Half an hour after meeting these ladies, he was making choices that would impress them in all the wrong ways. His target was the Halona Blowhole, a dangerous natural formation that shoots seawater 20 feet into the air with incredible force. It's a rock funnel that uses wave action to create a powerful water cannon. Authorities had installed a locked gate to keep people away from the stairs leading to the blowhole. Warning signs clearly stated hazardous conditions. Do not go beyond this point. But Daniel was determined to show his new female friends exactly how fearless he could be. Despite being warned by multiple witnesses who tried to talk him out of it, Daniel climbed over the rocky shelves to reach the blowhole. He was overheard saying he wanted to feel the water hit his chest, which showed a fundamental misunderstanding of the forces involved. He straddled the opening with arms outstretched, laughing while spray washed over him, probably feeling like the most adventurous guy on the beach. Then physics took over in the form of a large wave hitting the rocks below. The resulting blast of pressurized water launched him 5 feet into the air and dropped him headfirst back into the blowhole. According to a firefighter who attempted the rescue, the blowhole narrows then opens up 8 feet down, creating a deadly trap. Divers recovered Daniel's body the next day. He became the 4th victim since 1927 to be swept into this natural death machine. Number 5, the maintenance mistake. From natural disasters to workplace accidents, we visit Washington State, where routine maintenance became anything but routine. January 2002 brought us a 49-year-old Boeing worker whose 16 years of experience weren't enough to save him from a catastrophic judgment error. Our Darwin Award winner worked for Boeing Equipment Services and was performing maintenance on a massive computer-controlled machine. This wasn't just any machine. It was a hydraulic monster that carved aircraft parts out of solid metal blocks using pressures that could crush a car. The hydraulic lines carried 20,000 psi of pressure, even when the machine was supposedly shut down. That's enough pressure to cut through steel or launch objects at bullet speeds. Working on equipment like this requires extreme attention to detail and strict adherence to safety procedures. Multiple warning systems, tags, and signs reminded workers about the deadly pressures involved. His co-workers were nervous about what he was planning to do, which should have been warning enough. But our maintenance expert had decided he could remove a hydraulic line without relieving the pressure first. The bolts holding the line were so tight that he needed a 4-foot section of pipe attached to his ratchet to get enough leverage. For most people, having to use a massive cheater bar would signal that something was under serious pressure. This hydraulic line was held in place by 4 high-strength bolts designed to contain forces that could demolish buildings. He had successfully removed 3 bolts and loosened the 4th when physics decided to teach him a lesson. The overstressed bolt snapped under the enormous pressure, and a foot-long brass sleeve shot out like a cannonball. The metal projectile hit him in the forehead with enough force to knock him back 8 feet. After bouncing off his skull, it ricocheted 50 feet up and hit a crane on the ceiling. The maintenance worker never knew what hit him, which was probably a mercy given the circumstances. Sometimes safety procedures exist because the alternative is having your own equipment become a lethal weapon. From workplace safety to recreational risks, we traveled to New Zealand, where storm warnings met stubborn determination. Number 4, the Fisherman's last cast. In January 2002, a fisherman who believed that dangerous weather conditions were just suggestions rather than life or death warnings. The wild west coast beaches of Auckland were experiencing 12-foot swells as a massive storm system approached. Weather services had issued clear warnings about the impending danger, advising everyone to stay away from the coastline. But our Darwin Award nominee saw the dangerous conditions as the perfect time to go fishing. He positioned himself on the rocks as massive swells crashed around him, apparently believing that fish bite better during life-threatening weather. People watched in amazement as he continued fishing, while 12-foot waves broke over his head. Surf lifesavers reported seeing him standing calmly with his fishing rod as walls of water crashed around him. The conditions were so dangerous that rescue attempts were impossible. Anyone trying to help would have become victims themselves. His commitment to fishing was absolute, even as the approaching gale pushed massive swells toward his rocky perch. Nature eventually collected its debt when a particularly large wave swept him off the rocks and pushed him out to sea. Witnesses could only watch helplessly as he disappeared into the churning waters, carried away by the same forces he had ignored. His body was recovered later, not far from where he had been standing with his fishing rod. Weather warnings are apparently just suggestions when you've got a fishing rod and determination. But weather isn't the only deadline that can kill you. Just ask this Tennessee man who learned that tax season and train schedules don't mix. Number 3, the tax day racer. It was April 15th, the deadline for filing U.S. tax returns. And our Darwin Award winner was in a desperate rush to meet the deadline. Like millions of Americans, he had waited until the very last minute to file his taxes. But unlike most procrastinators, he decided that traffic laws were optional when racing to beat government deadlines. His solution to the tax deadline crisis was simple: drive as fast as possible and ignore any obstacles in his path. The main obstacle turned out to be a train crossing with active warning signals and safety gates. But our tax filing hero had a different interpretation of railroad crossing etiquette. He drove around the crossing gates, apparently believing that tax deadlines trumped train schedules. Unfortunately, he wasn't the only person with this brilliant idea that day. Another equally impatient driver was approaching the same intersection from the opposite direction, also racing to beat the tax deadline. This created a unique situation in Darwin Award history: 2 Darwin Award candidates approaching the same deadly mistake from opposite directions. The collision was inevitable and spectacular, occurring right next to the railroad tracks as the train passed through unimpeded. The northbound driver was killed instantly, earning himself a Darwin Award for his tax day urgency. The southbound driver survived with serious injuries, making him an at-risk survivor who nearly joined the winner's circle. 2 cars, 1 train crossing, and the first ever Darwin Award winner to collide with another Darwin Award candidate. But if you think surface-level stupidity is bad, wait until you go underground, where this Mexican cave explorer decided that million-year-old crystals needed a new owner. Number 2, the Crystal Thief. Deep beneath Chihuahua, Mexico, lie two extraordinary caverns containing the largest natural crystals known to science. Walking into these caves is like stepping into a giant geode, with clear selenite crystals over 20 feet long decorating every surface. These newly discovered caverns sit 1,200 feet below ground and maintain a constant temperature of 108 degrees Fahrenheit. The combination of stunning beauty and harsh conditions has earned these caves a reputation for danger among scientists and explorers. But one man looked at these natural treasures and saw only opportunity for personal profit. Our Darwin Award winner decided that such magnificent crystals belonged in his private collection rather than in their natural setting. His plan was elegantly simple: break off one of the largest crystals from the ceiling and carry it to the surface. What he failed to consider was basic physics and the fundamental relationship between gravity and large objects. The crystal he selected was a massive stalactite hanging directly overhead, supported by millions of years of mineral deposits. His technique for harvesting this geological treasure showed remarkable determination and stunning stupidity. He positioned himself directly underneath the crystal and began chopping it free from the ceiling. This meant that several tons of razor-sharp mineral formation was hanging directly above his head, held in place only by whatever he hadn't cut through yet. Any reasonable person would work from the side or use ropes to control the crystal's fall. But our crystal thief was apparently too excited about his illegal treasure to worry about minor details like personal safety. As he continued chopping, the massive crystal began to respond to gravity's patient invitation. When the final supporting rock gave way, Newton's law of universal gravitation took over with geological efficiency. The sparkling stalactite plummeted straight down, pinning our would-be thief beneath tons of mineral formation. He was simultaneously crushed and roasted in the 108-degree cave, creating his own tomb from the treasure he had tried to steal. Now that's what we call natural justice, but some people don't need to go underground to find danger. They bring it right into their driver's seat, like our number 1 winner who proved that multitasking has its deadly limits. Number 1, the laptop driver. In February 2007, a 29-year-old Oscar was driving southbound on Highway 99 near Yuba City, California, in his Honda Accord. But unlike most drivers, Oscar had decided that operating a vehicle wasn't challenging enough to deserve his full attention. He had set up his laptop computer in the car, plugged it into the cigarette lighter, and was actively working while driving. This wasn't a quick glance at GPS or checking a text at a red light. Oscar was fully engaged in computer work while controlling a 2,000-pound vehicle at highway speeds. Oscar was apparently committed to proving that anything was possible with enough confidence and poor judgment. His mobile office setup was complete and operational as he cruised down the highway, probably feeling quite productive. The problem with driving while computing is that both activities require attention, decision-making, and quick reflexes. When you try to do both simultaneously, you end up doing neither one well. Oscar's multitasking experiment reached its conclusion when his Honda crossed into oncoming traffic at full speed. A Hummer traveling in the opposite direction provided the reality check that Oscar's divided attention had missed. The collision was devastating, but Oscar's laptop was still running when California Highway Patrol officers arrived at the scene. The computer was still plugged into the cigarette lighter, screen glowing with whatever work had been more important than staying alive. Oscar's death became part of a growing statistics. In the previous year, 510 California drivers had been charged with reckless driving while using TV, video, or computer monitors. According to CHP studies, cell phone use was the top cause of distracted driving crashes, followed by fiddling with music. Anything that distracts you can kill you, whether it's eating lunch or working on a computer, an AIA spokesman explained. The irony was perfect. A computer tutor who taught others about technology was killed by his inability to understand when not to use it. His fatal lesson serves as a reminder to surf the information superhighway, not the asphalt superhighway. Bonus entry, the crane swinger. Our bonus Darwin Award takes us to Colorado, where winter boredom met youthful stupidity in spectacular fashion. In December 2005, a 22-year-old whose cabin fever led to a permanent solution. The construction site at the University of Colorado campus had gone 87 days without an accident until Mr. Young reset that count to 0. Winter in Colorado can drive people stir crazy, with freezing temperatures and howling winds keeping everyone indoors. But Ryan was determined to get out of the house and find some excitement, no matter how dangerous. He bundled up, grabbed a length of rope, and headed for the university campus, where a 10-story construction crane offered the perfect thrill-seeking opportunity. The construction site was properly secured with fencing and locked operator cabins, following all safety procedures. But security fences are just suggestions to someone determined to have a winter adventure. Ryan scaled the fence easily and began climbing the 35-meter-high crane, probably feeling like the most adventurous guy in Colorado. His plan was beautifully simple: tie his rope to the end of the crane's boom and swing out into the night like a human pendulum. At 22 years old, Ryan was living up to his last name with his youthful enthusiasm for dangerous activities. He reached the top of the crane, secured his rope, and launched himself into the cold winter air with joyful whoops of excitement. For a few glorious seconds, he was flying through the night, experiencing the ultimate adrenaline rush. But his rope swing had one tiny flaw in the planning. He hadn't calculated the arc of his pendulum motion. His joyful flight carried him directly into the campus power station building across the street. The building provided a sudden and permanent end to his winter entertainment. Sometimes the best cure for cabin fever is to stay inside where it's safe and boring. And there you have it, folks. 11 spectacular examples of why critical thinking should be mandatory in every school system. If you enjoyed today's volume of catastrophic decision-making, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And remember, if you know someone who could benefit from these cautionary tales, share this video with them immediately. You might just save a life by showing them what happens when brilliant ideas meet basic physics. Until next time, keep your safety equipment on, read the warning signs, and remember that multitasking has its limits. This is Wow Amazing, reminding you that Darwin's theory is still being tested every single day. Stay safe out there, because natural selection never takes a vacation.